You're listening to The Blind Stealing the Blinds, a podcast by students of the game for students of the game. Join Del and BJ in conversations about poker theory and bridging the gap between theory and application. We're all in this together. This week's topic, a conversation on marriage and poker. Part 1, The Hamiltons.
This is Del Hamilton, and today things are going to be a little different. I have a special guest that I'm excited about and nervous about. It's my wife, Terry, who's a clinical therapist. She's a licensed clinical mental health counselor, a national certified counselor, and a clinical supervisor for a nonprofit organization that provides health services for the underserved population of southern New Hampshire. She also has very questionable taste in men. Hi, Terry.
Hello.
Are you nervous?
No.
No? I am petrified.
Just be careful what you ask, because you might not like the answer.
So, for this week's episode, BJ is on vacation. So, one of the things that I thought might be interesting is to take a break from our usual framework. We normally go with what the problem is, the solutions for it, and tools to take care of it. But I figured this week I would just have a conversation with my wife and pick her brain due to her background and see what she felt about 5 questions about me and our marriage and poker. So, little background. You don't play poker, right?
No. No, I do not.
So, when we go to the casino, what do you play?
Slots.
Yes, she's a fan of the one-armed bandit. So,
it's a good distraction.
One of the questions that I want to start out with is, what do you really feel about me playing poker? I mean, you're supportive of me playing poker. And I don't think you really like me playing poker, but you're supportive in it. But I wonder, I mean, you don't really open up your feelings about it. You don't really tell me if you wish all the poker world would burn and go to hell, or whether or not you enjoy getting me out of the house when I do go play, or what. So it's interesting what you really think about it.
Well, that depends. There are times that I think it's a great thing. Those are usually times when you win and you bring home money. There are times I get frustrated with it if you don't win, if you use it as an escape to get out of doing something, or if you don't get your way and pout.
Do I do that a lot?
Sometimes. Yeah. Not so much anymore, but
well,
I used to. A lot.
You've done a good job raising me. So do you feel like you've ever come second to poker?
No, absolutely not. No.
I mean,
unless, of course, we're out driving around and BJ's texting you, because he always seems to know that we're in the car and bing, 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 and you start texting. But besides that, no.
Well,
not really.
You know, I do have a little bit of a man crush on him. He's he is a very handsome man.
I don't know, BJ, you want me big time.
So the thing is that I think of it as my second job. You know, I think of it as like, I've had a rough couple years here with COVID, but before that, I would make a little bit of money at it, and occasionally that would go to pay a bill. And I'm not saying I always won, but I usually won more than I lost, and I always considered it my second job. And I'm kind of wondering if you agree with that notion, or if you think I'm a little crazy.
Well, I'm looking at the questions, that you sent me to take a look at, and you have a statement in here that said that I'm guarded in what I say, and I am guarded in what I say, because 1, I don't want to hurt your feelings, and 2, I don't want to make you angry. But every time we talk about poker, I have to funnel my feelings through historical information that are my mother's thoughts and feelings about poker. Her father gambled, not played poker, a lot, leaving them strapped for money a good portion of the time. And so what I know about poker, I know through her stories. I know through picking him up at the club. I know through what life was like for her. So the guardedness doesn't come as part of I don't want to answer your question. It comes as am I hearing this story from my husband, or am I hearing this story from my mother? And I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but it's clear to me that that's what happens.
I think that's very interesting. There's a couple things in there that I look forward to unwrapping. The first thing I want to say, though, so people understand, although you don't play poker, if I go play a live session, I come home and the next day we process that session together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
So I depend on you to help me in my mental game with my poker. And if I play a long session online, I will often talk to you about that and process that.
Yep.
So it is, in case people wonder why we talk so much about it, we talk so much about it because a part of my success at poker depends on a good, solid mental game, and you've helped me a lot with that. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that one of the things I noticed in there was you really differentiated between playing poker and gambling. And when I first started playing poker, I don't think you saw a difference. Do you see a difference now?
I see a difference now as you've matured in the game, as I've matured in my knowledge of the game, and that I've come to either know or meet some of the people that you associate with in regard to poker. And this is not the corner bar guys getting together all day on Sunday, drinking and playing poker and losing the rent money. This is a bunch of people who have a working knowledge of the game, who spend their time learning about the game, who are students of the game, and who share their wisdom with each other. So, yeah, it's totally different.
I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. I have a hard time in my daily life trying to explain that to people. And I think a lot of people who play poker have trouble explaining that to their spouses. So it's, I want you to know, it's really amazing to hear that from you.
Well, in the beginning, when you were playing online and there were women that popped in, and I had to be really clear as to what was happening, and that it wasn't a distraction or a way to get out of our relationship or out of what was going on for us. Whenever that happened, I've thought about these questions now for two or 3 days, and I wasn't really sure how I felt about any of this, but it sounds pretty good right now, so let's stay with that.
So one of the things that I was curious about, both BJ and I believe that if you truly study poker, you're going to get better at life. If you get better at life, you're going to get better at poker. Now, I don't want that any of the people listening to misunderstand me. I don't think that everybody who plays poker is going to get better at it. Are going to get better at life or the way they treat people or anything. But I feel like if you put your effort into a true understanding of the game and a true understanding of life, you'll find that they're very similar in a lot of ways. So for me, right now, I think I'd play the game if there was no chance for me to make money, simply because I feel like I improve as a human being through it. But I don't know if you agree with that, and I don't know what your perspective on that. I don't know if there's anything you've seen improve over the last decade plus that I've been playing this game seriously.
Well, I think that it depends if you're looking for something in particular. I think that as a regular, everyday human being, you have changed in ways of judgment. You don't judge as quickly or as severely as you used to. You're more aware and self-aware of what you're doing. 100% of the time would be great, but I'll take 50. 50 is good. In regard to other stuff like life chores or life problems or things that happen, now we've been married, 19 years? I don't even know. 19 years. It's just all a blur. You don't handle things the same way you used to. And that would be, you always flew off the handle and you were extremely emotional. Now I can see you change. You can listen better. Let's go there. You listen from start to finish most times, and you can respond with less emotion and more logic, and that's good no matter what you're doing. To be able to be less judgmental and respond with more logic than emotion. But I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, I think it did.
I think the most important thing we did was when we looked at decision making. When we did the EMDR process with decision making, looking at your past, your childhood, things that happened for you, and identifying how your body and mind were processing what was happening in the moment. When, as a person who experienced trauma growing up, you have to know how your body processes trauma in order to get through it without having a lot of negative side effects. And what was happening is when you were called or you felt as though someone was attempting to take advantage of you, your response was emotion. It was not logic. So after having processed that information with you about how you interact with other people and how you respond, even physically, I've noticed a change. It comes from logic now instead of emotion.
Yeah, so I want to give the listeners a little bit of a background on what you're talking about there. I had come to you and I had said that I was having this mental block happen in my game where I was unable to fold to large river bets. I couldn't do it. There was a mental block there. And we did some processing with MDR on it. And this deals a lot with, like you said, it was an emotional reaction to growing up being bullied. And I was having the same thing. Well, the problem is, I'm glad to hear you say that I make decisions with less emotion, because emotion's bad for decision making. It really is. And a greater majority of people out there do make their decisions based on emotion. And it's just not a good way to do it.
For some, other people can be successful at it. It's not something that I like to do because that's why you buy cars and stuff that you can't afford, So not you as you, but you as a operative term.
Yes, I don't buy anything not based on emotion other than firearms. Anyways. Not angry emotion, people. Not angry emotion. So, see, this here's a big question that I really want to address because I question it lately. You have felt for a while that I suffer from clinical depression. I've come to agree with you. I am not diagnosed by a psychiatrist, and I don't take anything for it. I try to deal with it in natural ways. But one of the things that I wanted to ask is if you felt that somebody that suffered from clinical depression could possibly be successful at poker or any endeavor that required good decision-making skills. Because poker is a game of decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I totally understand that. So now I'm going to take off my Ask My Wife Questions hats and respond to you with my therapy hat. And what I found over especially the last 2 years, is that most of us are living through multiple either crisis of faith or crisis in work or financial or the existential crisis that is living on this planet right now as a human being. So depression and anxiety kind of, are related and they run hand in hand. In regard to your depression, if you can get out of your own way, you usually do okay. So let's say it does not I don't believe it affects your decision making as much as it did in the beginning. Because when we talk about what happened when you go to play and you come home, and if it wasn't a good night and it was a difficult session, you come home and it used to be really negative. It was, I can't do this, it's never going to work, blah, blah, that type of stuff. You've managed to change your internal dialogue so that it's more positive, and you can see very clearly the challenge and how you responded to the challenge and how it could be different. So it's winter in Vermont, man. Everybody has depression. And the fact that the sun has gone down and we're still up talking is a testament to the fact that we promised to do this. But beside that, no, I don't think it affects your decision making. Not anymore. Not like it used to.
So are you saying, yes, somebody could make it work? That they could be successful?
Oh yeah, that was a roundabout way. Yeah, I believe that people can do whatever it is they want to do. We are not our traumas. We are not our depression or our anxiety or our PTSD. These are all things that we have. but it doesn't have to define who we are, and it doesn't need to get in the way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
This has been awesome so far. I got to tell you, I'm really enjoying doing this with you. So,
I want to go back to this statement. Both BJ and I believe that if you truly work to get better at poker, you will get better at life. If you work to get better at life, you will get better at poker. And I think that that's a positive thought, because there's no one that is 100% at life. I don't know about poker, but at life. And so as we get better in all domains of our life, in our personal interactions, in our financial stability, in our mental health, in our physical health, in our job, in our relationships, it can't help but support positive growth and movement.
So the last question I got for you is what would you suggest to spouses of serious poker players as far as dealing with them playing poker, and anything you have to say about it?
I think that if you take a minute to understand the game, and if you understand the game, then you understand the reasons why somebody wants to play the game. It was really difficult in the beginning. It was really hard in the beginning, because it always felt like you were leaving, and we had, the kids were really young, and I always felt like you were disappearing and I was stuck. But they were really young, and they really struggled a lot anyway. So they would have struggled if you were here or not. So it doesn't really matter. But I would say take the time to talk about why the person likes it. Why do you like poker? Why do you want to play poker? What does poker do for you? What are your goals around poker? I don't think that poker, like anything else, is something that you can just kind of jump into and not set some goals and have some coaching and do some reading and do some education and do some study and talk to other people. I mean, one of my favorite phrases is, if you want what I have, then do what I do. And the only way one can get better at doing anything is to ask somebody who has the skills that they want and learn that way. I don't know if that makes any sense either, but it seems like the important thing is to talk about it, have the conversation about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I remember telling you, my reasons for playing, and my reasons haven't changed that much, only a little bit. I always enjoyed the intellectual stimulation of the game. I enjoyed the people puzzles.
Yeah, but the difference is the change was not just about the game. The change in you was not just about the game. The change in you was about the relationships and the friendships that you have made along the way.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. You could tell me, I don't know what a river is. I don't know what a button is. I don't know what any of that stuff is. It doesn't make any sense to me. And you can talk about it and I'll yes you, but it doesn't make any sense to me. However, you can't pull the wool over the eyes of somebody who knows what's going on. And if you surround yourself with the smart people who are doing what you want, you have no other choice but to learn the way to do it.
Yeah, I was really fortunate when I latched on to Blake and Matt and all the...
Well, it started with Blake, and Blake's thing was all behavioral.
Yeah.
It was all behavioral, and that's what he teaches about success.
Yeah, I agree, and Blake's had a huge influence on me. Matt has. Mm-hmm. All the coaches at School of Cards have. Yeah. And, the funny thing is, I think the one that's had the most influence on me is a fellow student. I think that's BJ. When I look at it, and I look at our relationship, one of my goals in order to succeed at poker is to be a little more like BJ every day, because BJ gets done.
Well, that's the name of the game, right?
So I want to talk a little bit about how I feel about our marriage and your support. I feel like there's some things that I want to share here about the podcast. I don't know if you know this. This podcast has been heard in 19 different countries. Mm-hmm. And we didn't expect to be heard in more than maybe 3 countries. And we've got, a pretty steady following pretty quickly. And BJ and I are both pretty pleasantly surprised about that. We're happy about it. But we started doing this to get better at poker and as an excuse to spend an hour together, once a week. So, but I wouldn't have this podcast, and I wouldn't have what I have in my online poker, and I wouldn't have what I have in my everyday life if it wasn't for you, and the support you give me. And The reality is I've never given up on poker because of you, because you went to school full time while working a full-time job and raising 2 kids. I've always been amazed by that, and I don't feel that I can quit something that is this important to me after seeing you do that to gain the career that you have that was so important to you. So you're an inspiration to me, and you're my favorite person in the world, and I love you.
Well, that's so nice. I like cake. Love you too, hon.
Do you have anything else you want to share, honey?
No, I don't think so. I hope that 2022 brings everybody some peace and some happiness and all the things that you want. And if this is what you want, get off your ass and do it.
God, I love you.
This has been The Blind Stealing the Blinds, a podcast by students of the game for students of the game. If you haven't already done so, consider subscribing. And when you're not counting your chips, take a moment to leave the guys a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get yours.